Hi, my name is Scott with ADV Goats, and a lot of people ask us about the kennel that we use to take the dog on the motorcycle. So it's going to be a quick overview of how it works and where we wound up with making it right now. We'll start by talking about his seating real quick. From there, I'll go talk about how the kennel itself is built and what it's made out of. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, how it's mounted to the bike, which is oddly the most difficult part of all of this whole setup here. So the first thing, again, is going to be the seat. And if you see here, we've kind of layered this. The newest thing that we've tried is putting a sheepskin on top, which has been generally successful. It's extremely soft, gives him a lot to grip on. And this was actually given to us, so it's a little bit older and it's starting to fall apart. You can see the leather tearing here, and he puts it through a lot of abuse as well, clinging on as I ride through the desert and through rocks and sand and all kinds of crap like that. So we'll eventually replace this once it gets worn out. We've decided this is going to be a consumable part. It's just going to wear out. There's probably no way around that. So, you know, every year, every 2 years, we just get him a new sheepskin and that'll be that. The sheepskin is adhered with Velcro that we sewed on to the bottom here. Oh, looks like we got, it's hanging on by a thread here, a little tuft of sheep's wool. And this was a piece that we had upholstered here. This is a wedge with marine grade upholstery. So inside of this, initially there was one big piece of foam, and this is shaped generally in a triangle. I mean, it's rectangular up top, of course, but if you see it, it's got Velcro on top to hold the sheepskin there, and then Velcro on the bottom also to hold it down to the actual kennel itself. But it's a wedge, essentially. And the reason for that is the back portion of the motorcycle, the pillion area, naturally slants forward, which makes sense. If you're a passenger, you don't want to be falling off the back of the bike. You want to be falling towards the rider, the actual rider of the bike. But that's a problem for the dog because he is at a very, very steep angle facing forward. So anytime we're on an incline or decline, rather, that exacerbates a problem, and he's very, very far up like this and has a hard time hanging on. I essentially have to squat back and stick my butt out in his face to brace him. So we made this wedge here because it lifts the front up and gives him a slightly more level platform. And it's got a zipper on it, so we can take or add foam or add or remove foam as need be. We've gone through a couple iterations of trying to find the right density foam to make it firm for him while still have some cushion. Initially, we thought this would be the only thing we needed, but there's no way to get the right amount of foam in here for it to both be tall enough and also for him to have actual cushion. This also has no friction whatsoever. It looks like it should, but not for puppy paws, it turns out. So he needs something more substantial to grab onto. And we also have a heating element I got from Rocky Mountain. It's just a UTV seat heater that I just spliced a UAE cable into. And that resides in here, so if it gets super cold, we can plug that in and he's got a warm paws. So that's his cushions. The next part is the kennel itself. It's relatively simple the way it's designed. The intent when we made this was to have it be made out of all parts that you could find at a hardware store if you need to be replaceable and serviceable as need be. And all the parts are, of course, with the exception of the panels themselves. So the panels are a combination of G10 carbon fiber, which the back, the bottom, and then this little piece in the front here are, and then the two side panels here are carbon fiber. I don't think it's necessary to make it out of carbon fiber, but I decided what the heck, why not? It looks cool, it's stronger, and so far it's held up extremely well. These were panels that were rectangular in shape originally. I got them from McMaster Car. They're economy grade composites. They're nothing really, really fancy. I think they're 1/16 of an inch thick. I don't remember exactly. And we water jetted them to get them to the shape we needed here, and for all the cutouts for the molly webbing that we put here. That's the most expensive and difficult part of this whole, of actually building it and machining the materials, is cutting the composites, because there's really no good way to do that at home and have it come out evenly and everything. The molly, of course, isn't, the cutouts for the molly isn't necessary. It's just a nice to have for us. And excluding that from a build would simplify the process quite a bit. So the rest of it, the frame itself, you see this here is just aluminum angle. Then you can get this at any hardware store, Aces, Lowe's, whatever, with little bits of stainless steel. These two braces here and here are made out of stainless steel. And there's actually these strips over here on the side are also made out of stainless steel angle. 90-degree angle that we bent out a little bit, that we also, you can get at any hardware store. All the fasteners, it's all bolted together with just nylock nuts and bolts. So it can easily be taken apart. Nothing's riveted, nothing's permanently in place. And again, we haven't actually had the need to service it or do anything with it at all, save for modifying the cushion. We have made changes over time in regards to mounting, and that's my next point here. Well, actually, before I get to that, I just want to say that so within this, there's a good bit of flex. Like, this is flat in the ground here. It's flat on the back of the bike, but you can see it flex. And that's a good thing for our application. We actually don't want it to be rigid. Some flex in there allows it to have that play and not break, and takes the pressure off of the kennel in whatever situation it might be. Surak leans on here. He'll just put his whole body on the side here. Odessa has helped me pick up my bike by pressing on the side here, and so far it's all held up really well. There needs to be basic structure, which is why we have this front lip here, and then why these are here, to provide that rigidity. That without those, there would be too much flex and it would break or fall apart. It just would not work. So those are the necessary components, along with the slats that go up to the sides here. And the next most important component here is the mounting mechanism for this, and that's undergone a few changes. Originally, this was on my 1290, and the problem we faced there is the platform it was bolted on was actually the seat release mechanism, was where the seat release mechanism was. So in order to get under the seat for anything, you would need to take the whole kennel off. And we wanted to make it easy to do, so it wasn't a laborious process of having to undo multiple fasteners and a whole bunch of crap like that. But we eventually evolved it into what you see here now. So it's mounted by 3 of these quick detach push pins here, T-handles. These are actually aircraft parts. The company, I think it's called Jergens. And you simply depress this button here and you can wiggle it out like that. We have one there, one here, and then one on this side, and it's already out. And those are the only 3 mounting points for the kennel itself. And then once those are out, you can remove it and it comes right off. So as far as attachment points on the kennel itself, there's these 2 pieces here of what was U-channel aluminum, just some random stock that a nice person had and made these out of. So the pin slides through, the holes drilled in on either side here. And then on the bike, through this barrel here in the middle, and that provides the rigidity it needs to be on the bike. On the rear side of the kennel, we just put 2 steel tabs here that serve the same purpose as the U-channel does. That brings us to the mounting points on the bike itself. We decided to go with the Black Dog CycleWorks, they call this the Helopad. The reason for that is because this is available for most of the common adventure bikes out there. So the notion being that if we build on a common platform, we'll be able to transition to a different bike, which we wound up needing to do. So it worked out pretty well for us. There are differences though between this plate for the Tenere here and the one for the 1290. The one for the 1290 was actually 2 pieces and was much larger than this one here was. So because of that, we put these pieces of aluminum here. These are, I don't know, I think maybe 1/4 inch aluminum to give the kennel stability on the bottom, because previously the Black Dog Cycleworks plate in the 1290 was actually as wide as the kennel was. So the kennel sat generally flat on there. This was not. So the fiberglass in the bottom of the kennel was actually taking all the weight, and then the frame was not the frame of the kennel was not supported in any way. So we put these on there to reduce the twisting motion of the kennel when we hit rockier terrain, and to preserve the bottom of the kennel. And then we have this back piece out here that provides with a 3rd mounting point right here, and also provides, you know, some additional support on the rear, because Surak does wind up sitting very far back in the kennel. And this is something that still needs to be improved upon, and I'll show you why here. If I remove this plate, try to, it's got a sweet spot. Right, I finally got it to release. There's an issue here where I have to press down and wiggle it around for the seat release mechanism to actually actuate. So I got it off. And the nice thing about this design is that when we want to move to a different bike, the only thing we need to do is change out these 2 barrels here and this U-channel here in the back. If you look at the bottom, there's a lot going on here right now. So we drilled and bolted in all these things with countersunk bolts on top, of course. And you can see this is actually starting to wear out here. This back here, because of the weight that Surak puts on the back of the kennel, it's actually smashing into the back of the bike. And you can see it's just torn up the plastics here. So it smashes and hits these, the aluminum here is hitting these metal pieces here. So at least it's getting a little bit of support on some metal, but this is something that needs to be improved. And we've started improving that by replacing these components here. So these were previously just rubber feet, 1 inch and I think 1 1/4 inch rubber feet. So what we replaced them with instead are actually springs, or a type of springs that I found on McMaster car. Actually, we've got 3 different sets of springs here. So this piece here, the 2 in the front are fairly straightforward. This is just a rubber piece here. It's actually just metal coated with rubber. And this here is a very high weight spring. So it will actually give a little bit, but we didn't want much give in the front. So it provides a little bit of bounce with all the weight on it, but we think enough for it to be fine without it compressing too much. On the back here, this actually needs to be improved, because the springs I got, my calculations were wrong, and these are actually way too light. So there's 2 springs here. You can see the one on the outside is almost like a pipe, a little plastic, some type of plastic material that compresses when you push it, put enough pressure on it. And actually, I think these have, no, yeah, they haven't. I was gonna say, I thought they permanently compressed right now, and I can't really push it here. But once it gets on the bike and you put weight on the back here, you can see the whole rear compress. So there's 2 springs here, right? And then inside here is another spring, which is similar to this one over here. So this essentially has 2 spring rates. The intent being that this one in the center also has a much higher weight. So it functions as a stop, like a bottom out, so that the kennel doesn't compress even further. It doesn't continue to compress on the bike. However, as I mentioned, I think I need to get springs with a higher weight rating on them. So in a nutshell, that's his kennel. It's really fairly easy to get on. This is the trickiest part here, is lining up the hooks and everything for this plate. There we go. Then we take this, generally align it here. It all slips in place, and then just the 3 pins. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And it's mounted here. And if I push, I'll just show you for giggles here. You can see it compressed in the back still, because when the weight is here, I did a really simple calculation because I'm not that smart, and I based it on I based my calculation on the total weight of the kennel itself, but I really didn't factor into the leverage effect that occurs when you put weight further back from the feet. So I just wasn't thinking, and hence I need stiffer springs. And then his bed goes in here like this. Tuck this away. The problem with the sheepskin is honestly he doesn't really feel the heat too much from the heating element. But we generally try to avoid the cold, so it's not that big of a deal. And then the sheepskin goes on like so. And there you have it, the kennel for a dog. Good boy. Here's our dusty, dusty dog on his throne.